Back in November, we released a short series of videos covering the Mac Mini M1's performance in various production-related tasks, from audio editing and mixing to video production and exporting. We were mind-blown by its performance in audio-related tasks, but we were less than impressed with its video performance, with certain codecs at least. It's now 3 months later, and we've had plenty of time to work with the new Mac in our studio. It's been assigned to audio duties, from ground-up productions, mixing and mastering, to editing the audio for these very YouTube videos. You'll be pleased to know that in general, this is a great machine. Its general performance and speed is great, and everything from loading large Logic projects to everyday usage is snappy and responsive. In comparison to my previous experience with my last purchase of an Apple product, it's a godsend. Last year, I purchased the new, at the time, Intel MacBook Pro, and my goodness, was it horrendous. The trackpad would stop working randomly, the keyboard would do the same, the whole system would randomly freeze, the screen would go black, and I even had issues opening most third-party apps, even basic ones such as Google Chrome. After many support calls with Apple and three replacements, I asked Apple for my money back, and I wrote it off as a bad year for the Intel MacBook.
I've been using the Mac M1 as my daily machine for a couple of months now, and I have to say for 699 quid it's a pretty awesome computer. Not only have I been working on some ground up production projects in Logic Pro with channel counts and virtual instruments up in the 50s and 60s, which is quite high for me, but I've also edited a few videos myself and have been using a lot of as yet unsupported plugins and unsupported audio hardware. And almost everything has just worked, with one caveat. Everything has just worked inside Apple's own native software, Logic and, for video editing, Final Cut, but not so well in non-native DAWs. I generally use Studio One for mastering, as I love the export functionality of it, the superb metering, and I can easily create DDP files for CD production, something we haven't been able to do in Logic since Apple discontinued Waveburner. But we had a lot of issues trying to run Studio One 4 on the new Mac, so I upgraded to the latest version, Studio One 5. And whilst that seemed to work well using the plugins supplied with it, load up third-party plugins and it's game over again. In many instances, such as with the Slate bundle, as soon as you load the plugin, it will present you with a load of graphical bollocks, with loads more graphical bollocks hidden underneath it, and it's generally completely unusable. Using Logic, however, it's a completely different story. Every currently unsupported third-party plugin I've tried in Logic just works, and works really well. So we've been using the new Mac for production and mixing projects in Logic, but I'm still going back to the old one for mastering in Studio One. Hardware integration has also been largely flawless. Many people have asked me if AVB still works, and the answer is yes, it works fine. Any USB interface we've plugged in has just appeared in the drop-down menu straight away, and the only thing that does make me a little bit sad is that our trusty Focusrite Claret 8 Pre-X is currently unsupported and just won't work. Focusrite's website confirms that, and the device shows up on the system report when using a Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter, but isn't selectable in any software as an audio interface. Focusrite have said that this isn't an issue with the Big Smurf operating system, but with the actual M1 architecture itself. So I'm hoping they will come back with an update on that, because that interface has some of the cleanest conversion I've ever encountered for running audio out to hardware and back in again, and we love it for that reason. Production aside, everything else on the new Mac just seems to work better. Even the internet. If James is uploading a video using the Wi-Fi down at the other end of the building, on the old Mac I'd have to wait for several minutes just for Gmail to load up, and I had no chance at all of either downloading or uploading projects from clients. On the new Mac it's like nothing is going on. He can be uploading a YouTube video and I can watch something else on YouTube in here, and it just works. Not only does it work, but it's generally a better experience. So generally it's been a great experience for me, and if I got to the stage where I thought that a laptop would be useful, I'd have no hesitation at all in picking up one of the new M1 machines. Apple have pretty much nailed it in terms of the performance of these new computers. RAM doesn't seem to be the potential bottleneck it once was. Indeed, with the new architecture, I don't think you can reliably compare specs on paper with previous Intel machines at all. It just doesn't seem to work like that anymore. I'd still advise you to wait if you're not a Logic Pro or Final Cut user, and remember that models in the current M1 lineup aren't Pro machines, they're base models. We'll see the Pro machines further down the line, hopefully sometime this year. However, Here's a Pro Tools user experience, and it's very different to my experience with Studio One.
Okay, so here's where it gets really fun. I started loading up plugins on this new session, and I put in Insert 1 the 7-band EQ, the stock Pro Tools EQ. On Insert 2, I put the compressor. On Insert 3, I put Lo-Fi. On Insert 4, I put stereo reverb, Deverb, the stock Pro Tools reverb. And then on Insert 5, I put a stereo delay. So I thought, I wonder if this computer will be able to handle if I put those same 5 plugins on all 126 tracks. You can see that the CPU usage is hovering around 38 or 39% with 126 reverbs going in a laptop that costs less than half the price that trash can did. We're seeing greater performance.
Many thanks to Colt Caparoon for giving us permission to use part of his video. The link to his full video is in the description below. It's well worth a watch, and don't forget to subscribe to his awesome channel while you're there. He did a great studio build a while back. Again, well worth a watch. So what are the downsides to the new M1? James?
One major issue we've found with general day-to-day usage, but this is something we completely expected to happen, is that if we're working on an old project from our 2014 Mac's desktop drive, we can't save any changes or write to the disk. The reason for this is that the old disk is formatted to NTFS and the new Mac uses Apple's own APFS file system. So whilst you can read from the old drive, you can't write back to it. But as I said, this is to be expected, and we got around the issue by simply importing any older projects we needed to revisit onto the new Mac M1's internal hard drive and then continuing from there. Then we export to our newly purchased APFS formatted desktop drive for archiving. Of course, if you're physically working on projects on an external drive, we'd definitely recommend a Thunderbolt 3 or USB-C external SSD rather than a mechanical disk, but the reasonably sized 256 gig SSD inside the Mac is enough to host most sizable projects. Once those projects are completed, simply export them to an external disk for archiving. That's what we do, and it just works well using this method. Secondly, the biggest issue we've had: Bluetooth problems. Already widely known by most people in the Mac community, these can be a right pain. Although it hasn't happened a lot of times, it's happened enough to be irritating. Apple's own Bluetooth keyboard and mouse will randomly disconnect, and there's no way to get them to reconnect. You either wait it out or you force restart the computer by holding the power button. How this got through the quality control at Apple, we're not really sure, considering the Apple keyboard and mouse is what most people would be using with it, but there are certainly issues there. So we've invested in a good old-fashioned wired keyboard. Sometimes you just can't beat a cable. Hopefully there's a new update which can fix this issue rather than a full recall job to fix the hardware. Talking of updates, Mark did have a morning of issues when he updated the system to macOS 11.2 earlier this week, and just had this on the screen once the computer restarted. A call to Apple and a quick reinstall solved the problem, but it would have been a morning of lost time had it not have been for the old machine. Let us know down in the comments if you've bought one of the new M1 Macs and what your personal experience is with them. We'd love to hear from you, and remember, create, don't hate. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and ding the ding dong, or I'll come to your house and I'll install Windows 95 on your Mac. You'll see us in the next video. Thanks for watching. Woo.